All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I think we've got a guest, Allison. Thanks for joining us. Always like to see new faces. Come on, please jump in and participate with us. Hold on. We got one other person joining. All right. And welcome Matthew. All right. We got our coffee. We're ready to go. So good morning, everybody. Today, I want to talk about what does it take? What does it take to accomplish your goals? And do I mean mindset? Yeah, of course. Mindset is so important. You have to be focused. We talk about focus as a superpower and being focused on things, right? Being in the moment, working on things in the moment. We also talk about being accountable. Part of this is about being accountable and being accountable to ourselves. It's also about controlling what you can control. We talked about this a little bit last week, but it is definitely worth focusing on, because raise your hand if in this business, and I'd love to see your faces for those of you who have up your headshot or just your name. Come on, it's 9:30. You've got to be awake and partially dressed by now. What I want to see, raise your hands if you feel like you're not in control sometimes. Now, let's hear maybe why you feel that way. Let's just get some examples. Not everybody at once.
Well, I will say there are some things that are outside of our control, no matter how much of a veteran or how savvy you are, how good you are at scripting. I mean, we don't run the Fed, right? So right off the bat, we're not controlling interest rates. So you are dealing with the cards that you're dealt to a certain degree at all times.
Who else?
I agree with Brandon. There's so much in real estate that can pop up on any given day, and you sit down, you think you have your schedule planned out, and then there's fires to put out. So I think being able to maintain and understand that, I guess to a certain degree, there's always going to be something is important.
So prepare for things not going the way you expect them to is one thing you can control, right? You can be prepared to be flexible. Good point. Okay. Who else? All right. Well, great. That was only two things we can't control, just interest rates and chaos. So that's not too bad. We can handle the rest.
I think that another one to remember is that no matter, obviously, from the perspective of representing a buyer, I just dealt with this. It's very frustrating when the deals are getting difficult and they're getting hard and your buyer's unhappy or whatever, but you have to kind of keep in mind, and it's hard for me sometimes, that we're the middleman, we're the liaison, we're representing them. We can't make the other side do what they want them to do. Our job is to present the request, ask what they want, but we can't make the builder build the house faster. We can't make the seller do the repairs that they want to do. We can't control the agent's ability to be better communicators with us. So it's very difficult to control the other side, and that can be frustrating because you're trying to control your clients and make them happy. So that, to me, I feel like is the most difficult thing with the things that one of the things that you can't control is the other side.
And that's a fair point. Yeah. And that's one of the things we try to set those expectations for right at the beginning. And so important. So I'm overcoming objections with the things you can't control today by talking about how we can work in an effort to control them, right? So we set expectations at the beginning of the process to say, look, things could come up. We're not guaranteed to get the answers we want, right? But at least we're setting that expectation. Who else has an example? Things you can't control in the process. Jarrett, it's so nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so that was only three things you can't control then, right?
I'll give you a
Hold on,
quick
wait, you've already given us one. Good God. The Fed, chaos, and the other side. That's not too bad, right? What else? Go ahead, Brandon.
Well, we were doing a strategy session training yesterday with Christian and Mary Ann, and an example I gave them is I had a buyer, my very first transaction in real estate, we're like 5 days away from closing, and my buyer bought a Ford F-450 Raptor,
Sweet.
not a 150, an 80 or $90,000 truck. You know, you can't do anything about that. You know, if you have a listing and you think everything is fine on the house and the buyer does the inspection and the radon is 19, you can't do anything about that, right? But to your point, Doug, it's setting the expectation on the front end in that strategy session that this stuff may happen, right? And we'll address it when it gets here.
Right. Remind those folks not to buy those cars. In Janine's case, remind them not to die until the transaction is over, because God knows she's been through that before. Honestly.
Cannot make this up. It's so
Janine can come
true.
up with her own list of uncontrollables, but we're not going to go that way. We've gone as far as I want to go into the uncontrollable. What I want to talk about is really being hyper-focused, especially in the market now, on controlling what you can control, and are you doing it? And that really comes down to, of course, your attitude, but your work plan. So I put together a little example of something that I want to share with you guys that we can discuss. And it's just a little document I call, what does it take? So what does it take? Okay. And we're going to, we touch on at the very beginning, the things we just talked about, controlling the controllable. What can you control? Making sure you are controlling those things. And primarily they are what? Your attitude. Yeah, things are tough, but I trust the process. I know how to do my job. I'm really great at providing value and building relationships with my clients. And I know that they're set on accomplishing their goal. It might take them a little bit longer now for a myriad of reasons, but I can control my approach to it. Your activity, which is going to be our primary discussion today. Do you know how much you have to put in to get out the results you want? Now, most of you should, because we set these goals last December, right? And somewhere you should have a spreadsheet that tells you exactly how many calls you should make this month, right? Who's checked on that recently? Raise your hands. Of course. Very good, Brandon. Way to lead by example. He's covering his mouth, so maybe he's actually laughing. But you, again, remember, you have the tools, but that screwdriver doesn't do anything if it's in a drawer. You got to take a screw out and you're just looking at it, trying to, make it back out with your mind. It's not going to happen. Use the tools you need and you have already. So, and then your schedule. Stephanie mentioned it earlier, our schedule. Well, the first thing is, do you have a schedule? Are you trying to use your schedule? I know you all do have a schedule. Are you checking it like we talked about? Are you attempting to do the things that you said you were going to do? And then shifting and being flexible when things do pop up, the things we can't control, right? Are you doing that? But primarily what I wanted to talk about today is conversion averages and getting down to brass tacks and breaking it down by year, by month, by week, by day, exactly what you should make sure you're doing at a minimum. As we've talked about a lot, your work plan should be based on data. That's why we track all this data. Now, first and foremost, the caveat you have to put into the data is the data is only going to spit out results based on what's put in. So if you're not tracking your calls correctly, if you're not tracking your appointments correctly, your agreements correctly, then the data we get back isn't going to be a true representation of the activity you need to be putting in, the effort you need to be putting in to get the results out. So always remember that. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're entering your data every day and then it's accurate. And I'm hoping the new change to Boomtown linking with Sisu for our calls and conversations is going to make that a lot easier. So make sure you're continuing to do that. It should 100%. So
The only thing that I can't see on there, it doesn't do it by, doesn't break it down by like day. It just has like the total for the month. Is that right?
it does have it by day. We're going to get there.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I didn't see
Maybe,
that.
I don't know, maybe zoom out. I don't know if you're zoomed in. It's at the very bottom by day. but we're gonna get there. So these numbers are loosely based on our team conversion averages for 2021. And what I did was I rounded it up because some of the numbers were really low. And I'm going to take that to mean maybe a little bit of data entry error and also really good conversion. Okay. So some of our more experienced agents are converting at a much higher rate than people who are new to the game. And that's natural because we've all been there, right? So again, these are averages just to give you a good starting point and a minimum work plan. Okay. So on average last year, it took us $5 to have a conversation, which I'm pretty sure is below national averages that I've seen. 10 conversations to set an appointment, new appointment, 2 appointments for an agency agreement. So that's good. On average, you're converting half of your appointments into clients, and we're closing 90+% of the people we get under agency agreement based on what's tracked. And really you should be. If you've gotten people to the point where they're signing an agency agreement, the only reason they shouldn't be closing is if they bought a Ford Raptor right before closing, or, you know, something not quite that fun, right? So we have the data. Your work plan should be based on the data, right? Break it down by year, by month, week, day to stay focused on the amount of activity you need to be putting in on a very macro level and a very micro level. This is literally saying, here's your work plan. And then you can say, am I doing this every day? I mean, this is like the blocking and tackling of the business. So I base this on a minimum work plan to close 24 homes in a year. All right. That's 2 a month. That's 6 more than our requirement for second-year agents, right? Or plus, right? Based on our averages, this is what you need to do. That's 2,700 dials in a year, 540 conversations, 54 new appointments, 27 agency agreements, 24 closings. Raise your hand if that sounds like a lot. Okay. I mean, it is a lot, right? You probably should think it sounds like a lot, guys. Does it sound like a lot to you? Okay. All right. But you break it down and divide it by 12 because we got 12 months in the year. Now, how many dials is that a month? 225 a month. How many new appointments is that a month? 4.5 a month, right? How many agency agreements is that a month? 2.25. Miriam is killing it in here, by the way. Great student, Miriam. Thank you. How many closings is that a month? 2. 2 closings a month. Now, raise your hand if all that sounds like a lot. Right? Okay. Now let's break it down further. Okay, by week. And this is based on 4 weeks on average, right? 57 dials a week. 12 conversations a week. 1.125. I really had to, you know, we're really breaking it down now. New appointments a week. Feel free to round all these up. A half an agency agreement a week. I don't know how you get half an agency agreement. You get the husband to sign and the wife's not ready yet, right? You convinced him, but you didn't convince her, right? A half a closing a week. I feel like we've done that. You know, you sign the documents on Friday and it records on Monday. I guess that's a half a closing a week, right? That's fair. Does that sound a lot like a lot of work? Who thinks that sounds like a lot of work? No, not nearly, right? All right. So let's break it down by day, because you got to attack one day at a time, right? And this is based on 5 days. And I know we work 6 days, we work 7 days, but you know, for the sake of our calendar not allowing us to do everything that we want to do when we said we want to do it and having to be flexible with our calendar, we'll base this on 5 days worth of productivity, right? Prospecting productivity. How many dials a day? 12 dials a day. Who would say, and Charles isn't on, I'll answer for him, who's making 12 calls a day? Okay. Good. 2.25 conversations a day. Roughly 1/3 of a new appointment a day. You know, I'm really not good at math, so 0.14 agency agreements a day. 1/10 of a closing a day. Don't you love fractions? No, me either. I started dividing all this up last night. I was like, should I just round everything up? No, because I want you to see over the course of a year, really how it adds up. But if you're only focused on this overwhelming amount of work I have to do, and you don't really understand what it takes on a day-to-day level and attack it from that day-to-day level, you're always going to feel like I'm running behind, or this is too much, or it's easy to make an excuse for not doing this today because I've just got too much going on. But remember, all that other stuff that you have going on is only going on because at some point you did at least some of this, right? So what you need to focus on is making sure you're doing the minimum things that are going to put you in a position to do what you want to do, and hold yourself accountable to that. And it starts with tracking after you do it, to make sure that way we're getting a true representation of your numbers in December when we set your goals for next year. Now, it's great to have these team averages, but everybody is different, right? Some people need 3 appointments to get an agency agreement, right? Some need 4 because you're still learning. You're still getting there. You're still scripting, right? You're taking appointments because you're new and you're showing homes to anybody, right? Because you're looking for the opportunity to learn versus, you're doing 20, 30, 40 a year. You've been doing this for 3 years, in some cases longer, and you aren't taking that appointment right away if you don't have the right feeling about the conversation, or you don't get the answer that you want when you're prospecting on the phone to folks, or they're not doing the things like talking to Morgan like we've asked them to do first, right? All of those things. The thing is, it can be personal to you if you make sure you're putting it in there, and then you'll have your very own specific work plan, and then you can see even better what you need to work on, right? Because once you have all these numbers, like I will say on average, these look good, right? And certainly if your conversion numbers are less than this, then that's even better. If your numbers are higher than that, that also gives you an idea of something else you can work on. Because if you're having 20 conversations to get to a new appointment, well, what are you saying in those conversations that's making it so much harder, or the chance of you setting that appointment, not the chance, actually setting that appointment is happening at such a lower rate? Or if you're getting the appointments and you're not getting the agency, if you had 10 appointments last month and you got 1 agency agreement, what's happening? Why are these people not under agency? Are you showing the value? Are you doing the consult? Because I'd rather have 2 appointments and get 2 agencies than 10 appointments and get 1. Right? So what conversations are you having? What value are you providing to move people towards their goal, to also move yourself towards your goal? Right? If you've got 20 agency agreements floating out there and you closed 10 for the year, what happened to those other 10 people? They didn't all buy a truck, did they? Are you providing the value to help them move along? Now, again, we're talking about the things that we can control. So let's have some discussion on this. Am I completely batshit crazy telling you unrealistic things that you should be doing to be successful? Or does it resonate somewhat?
No, I feel this. After last year's recap, I was like, holy mother, I had a lot of agencies that I never converted. And I'm like, what an effing waste of time. What am I doing wrong? Why didn't these people write? La, la, la. And most of the things were finance related, or obviously things that I couldn't control, but it was just shocking to see like how much that I you don't know until you put it in front of you with the numbers. And so it
And
shocked me.
doesn't it feel good to at least be able to go back and explore why?
Yeah.
Instead of just not knowing,
Yeah.
because then you know you did what you could do.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point, Janine. And I remember us having that conversation.
Yeah.
You talked about that.
Yeah.
Who else? We've got people at varying levels of and stages of their career in here. Guys, meet Jarrett. Jarrett worked with Brandon and I in a former life, right?
Hey guys,
She's a pro. She's a fantastic agent. She's an
Hey,
even better
Jarrett.
person.
hi.
Jarrett, tell us your thoughts on this.
Doug, I'm embarrassed to say that I mean, I don't track anymore. I don't count my calls. The business just comes in now. So I think when you get to a certain level, and I'm not boasting or anything, but I put in all this work, you know, that like for years doing this to get to where I am now. And I honestly, don't listen to me if you're new, because you got to do this, what he's telling you to do. This year, I'll probably close like 35. Last year, it was more. The year before that, it was more, just kind of slowed down. But the price point of my sales, I'm doing less and making more now. So
And
that's
the goal
inspiration.
for everybody, right? We all
Yeah.
want to get there, and you all will have a higher percentage of your business come from these other not team sources eventually, right? But to get there, you got to do this. And to a degree, it will also keep you there.
Mhm.
I think,
Yeah.
I think Jarrett, the part of the fruit of her success right now is because she did this stuff that we're talking about today for so many years. And so now those past clients are calling her immediately. Her past client touch game is amazing. She's getting referrals from those past clients, and she's gotten so good at her conversion because she learned how to prospect and script and work. Now, when she gets a new lead, as soon as she meets with them the first time, why would they even bother wasting their time reaching out to another agent? She's going to get them convinced that she's the right person for them immediately. And so it all comes back to doing these little things the first 3, 4, 5 years in your career that sets you up for that long-term trajectory.
You were asking about buyer agency agreements, like how many times until you get that? Guys, I get that up front. Like that is an upfront thing for me.
I think it is most of the time for us as well. But I think your goal, I think that's what a lot of people want, myself included. And I would say that to some degree, that's kind of how I operate. But I'm not closing as many houses as you are. That being said, what I'm starting to see is that it's about time for me to roll up my sleeves here with the market and the way it's happening. And I'm fine with, going through peaks and valleys. Is kind of how I work because it allows me to do some of the things that I enjoy. But with the way that the market's changing right now, I think that I'm definitely going to have to, roll up my sleeves and get more into the numbers and track more just so that I'm not missing any opportunities. Because full transparency, I could tell you that there probably are some things that slipped through the cracks because I didn't, follow up on a call or didn't track the numbers properly. So
I'm the same. I'm guilty of a lot of things too. Like I get leads from realtor.com. I get leads in our CRM that we use. And I mean, I have it right there. I could be prospecting And then when times get slow, I start to panic and I'll get back to my prospecting. So, I
Oh,
mean,
better pick up the phone. Do, do, do. No, that's fair. I think, also keep in mind this conversation is about helping you reach your goals. Different people have different goals. Different people are able to reach their goals doing different things. This is very much targeted at if you don't feel like you're reaching your goals,
mhm.
this should be at a minimum your work plan. Am I doing that? Now, Jared, I would still encourage you to track your stuff. Just
I
so
know.
you do want to know how the sausage is made and how much you got to put in there and what the recipe is, right? It's helpful.
Mhm.
You might not need it as much as someone else does, but it's still helpful and good to know. To Janine's point and her reflection from the agency agreements to actual closings. Ginger has her hand raised. Ginger, what you got?
That is definite user error. I thought I was raising my hand way back when. I didn't know
Okay.
it was still up.
I've got
I
a
just noticed
question.
it, and I think it's because I stopped sharing the screen so I can see better. So if you've got anything, just jump in.
Doug, do y'all use a dialer?
No, our dialer are these.
Okay.
I tried a dialer when we were at Rachel Kendall and I didn't like it. And so they don't like it by default, I guess.
Okay.
What
Can
else?
you explain exactly what that is? Like, is it like an ISA, same thing or different?
No, a dialer it's what's it called? Mojo or something like that. That's connected to Boomtown and
I tried
basically
Mojo once.
you just
I've
plug
done
in-
it for expireds and stuff. It just keeps the calls rolling. So if you get somebody's voicemail, you have a voicemail template already scripted out. It leaves a voicemail until
What I
it,
didn't like it using it for Boomtown leads was it was a lot of back and forth switching screens to track
yeah.
the data and enter the notes about the call. And I was like, the time that it's taking me to switch back and forth is negating the speed of the dialer. So I just have my Boomtown lead open. I just call them on my phone. Like I would have a headset on or something like that, so I can use both hands. I have always been a enter note while I'm on the phone person. I know some people don't do that. They'll go back and enter it after the call. Typically, if I'm in prospecting mode and it's not just like a one-off lead that I just got, then I will be sitting at my desk with my headset in and entering notes while they're talking, setting up searches while we're talking, et cetera.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Anybody else? Ashley, how's your tracking coming?
I need to grow in that area.
What a professional, perfect way to put that. Thank you, Ashley. Cassie? Louis wants you to prospect and track your numbers. Keep
Does
doing
he, or does he just want to play ball?
Both.
No, also I am on my phone because my computer's charging and I don't know how to get my camera on, so that's why I haven't turned it on yet. But yeah, I need to get better at tracking for sure. Organization has always been something I need to work on. And yeah.
Hey, the first step is realizing it and seeing how it can make a difference. So I just encourage everybody to check it out and make it a focus. This approach isn't one you can just back into. It has to be a mindset. But again, that's good because who can control it? You can control it. Make it a goal to hit these minimum thresholds on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and see where it gets you. Make sure at a minimum you're getting there. Now, if you're still not getting what you want, well, do more or figure out what you can do better. Excuse me. What have we talked about so many times? What's my goal for you guys as you grow in this business? Well, like Jarrett, to do less work and get more output. Or do more work and get significantly more output, or at a minimum, do the same amount of work and get more output, right? you should get better. You should get more efficient. You should convert at a higher rate because you should be much better at providing that value and asking those questions and setting those expectations sooner and better, right? And you will, everybody will. But make sure you're giving yourselves the opportunity to talk to folks to do that. And that's where this comes in. You know, make the minimum amount of calls. And when you break it down, it's very doable. But make sure you're doing it. It's right there in front of you. You should be able to make 12 dials in 1 hour.
When you say it like that, it sounds easy.
It is. You just got to do it.
No.
You have to be, turn on your focus superpower and do it. 1 hour, 12 calls. Because on average, how many conversations are you going to have? 2.5 in those 12 calls, right? So 2 of the calls are going to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the rest of the calls you're going to be leaving messages and sending texts. So there's no reason you can't do that.
Mhm.
But you have to be intentional about it. And then, like I said, if you track, you'll notice trends, and then you can react to the trends. Okay, I need to ramp it up because I'm not having the amount of conversations I want to have. Is that a controllable? Maybe not. What about setting appointments?
Mhm.
Our old boss told us that I wouldn't just prospect for a certain amount of minutes or calls. I'm not stopping calling somebody until I set an appointment. What if you prospected that way? Well, I see our level of production this month. Somebody should be prospecting because
Yeah.
nobody's writing contracts.
I think we're gonna have, I mean, I know I'm gonna headed back to doing, I'm glad I jumped on this call today. It was divine intervention because I need to get back to it.
All of a sudden your CRM is your friend now, right?
Yeah.
All the leads don't look so bad now. All that notification isn't a pain in the ass now that I got a lead.
I
Love those
think
leads.
Nate made a great point earlier with the way that the market is changing for a variety of factors, like I spoke about, that we can't control. Regardless of how seasoned and experienced you are, it is going to take more effort to get the same amount, or honestly, probably a handful fewer of deals than you've been getting this year and last year. It's going to take more work. There are going to be significantly fewer people that fly in and the first house they see, they want to get it. That will still happen every once in a while, but it's going to take a lot more relationship and cultivation. And the only way to do that is to get these people on the phone and then get in front of them.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything else to contribute? Christian and Miriam are still here, so they're not completely scared yet. They're starting to drill next door, so that might be our sign to wrap things up. Any last thoughts before we go? Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for
Thank you.
participating. I'll send out the recap email and I'll attach this document to it. Might be a good idea to print it and hang it somewhere that you can reference and keep in front of you and keep front of mind. Man, you guys are gonna have a desk full of pieces of paper by the time I'm done with you at the rate we're going. I hope they're helpful. You guys have a great day.
Thanks,
so much.
Doug.
Good to
Bye.
see you, Jarrett. Thanks
Bye,
for
honey.
joining in. Bye.